Welcome to Around the Peninsula. I'm Army Sergeant Matt Cromer. Do you like soccer, baseball, and football? An old sport is re-emerging today as a top contender that combines most sports into one. Petty Officer Justin Rouse has the story.
Gaelic sports is an intense, physically demanding variety of Irish-oriented activities, and it is catching on to the military members of Korea in a big way. Lindsay Shanks, a medical technician, travels from Osan Air Base to Yongsan on weekends just to participate in training events to prepare for the big tournaments.
This is actually my first year playing Gaelic football, so I really enjoy it. It's definitely a different atmosphere, and I've been to Ireland and I've watched a few of the hurling matches and football matches there, and it's incredible. Just the fans, it's almost great. It's better than a NFL football game. It's so amazing. So
whichever team is dispossessed, then they go out to that goal and they're the defenders.
Before 2002, Gaelic sports was non-existent in Korea and to the military members stationed here. But then the World Cup happened.
In 2002, there was the Soccer World Cup in Korea, so some Irish people came over for that, and they ended up staying in Korea, and then they ended up setting up a Gaelic football club. So that's how it all began, and now it's going from strength to strength, and we have a Korean league and everything here, so we have 3 clubs in Korea at the moment.
Much better, nice and easy, nice and easy.
Military members joined the club, adding on to its already rising popularity.
We have about, I would say, between 5 and 10 members, military members. We have ladies and men.
Workout sessions, we usually train for about 2 hours, Saturday or Sunday. Definitely lots of running. The pitch is a little bit bigger than a football pitch. We play anywhere from 11 to 13 people on the pitch, so it's a lot of running, and it's kind of like the same idea as soccer, where you're running up and down the pitch, and we play anywhere from 10-minute halves to 40-minute halves, depending on how many people we have.
So if you're looking to up your physical game, or just interested in a new type of sport, maybe Gaelic sports is right up your alley. Petty Officer Justin Rouse, Yongsan, Korea.
Gaelic football has been around since 1887 and has been virtually unknown to most people around the world. As time progresses, its popularity will continue to grow. These soldiers have a job that makes them seem to be on top of the world, but one might also say it's for the birds.
High above AFN Yongsan, we got a bird's eye view of a soldier's first day in the steel ribs of a radio tower.
I'm a 25 Lima cable systems installer and maintainer. We run cable if there's anything wrong with cable, like if it needs to be spliced or the fiber optics within the cable, like fixing that, troubleshooting cable, and like the overall maintaining of it, making sure it's working, and if it's not, figure out what needs to be done to fix it.
Private Morris's second day of training was an even bigger challenge on a tower near Namsan.
I was only here for about maybe a few days, and they just sent me off here to tower school. So, which we actually, we have to do in order to do our job. So I guess since I've been here, I've been doing my job.
Private Morris has a personal reason for choosing her occupation.
Out of the other jobs that I had, this was the best option for me. I think my dad was previously in the Army, and he was the same MOS as I am now.
Eventually, Private Morris came back to Earth with a sense of accomplishment.
Walk out to the edge of the platform.
I told my dad that I did it because I don't think he would ever be able to see me going off these towers like I have. I used to be terrified of heights.
Army Sergeant Stephen Dornbos, Yongsan, Korea.
41st Signal Battalion cable system installers train at Namsan Tower every Thursday. It is not difficult to find soldiers from various cultural backgrounds in the Army. Sergeant First Class Ben Navratil joins one event where soldiers get familiar with diversity.
The sound of the Samoan shell trumpet announced the start of the annual Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month ceremony. Under the theme of Many Cultures, One Voice, soldiers from diverse backgrounds introduced their own cultures to the Area 4 community.
I think it's a great thing, especially when you introduce many cultures within the country of Korea. It helps build a richer Asian background or a richer foundation to the rich foundation that Korea has already laid within the world. And so I think it's an interesting and exciting event, doing an Asian American Pacific Islander event here in Korea.
In addition to introducing various performances from different countries, Captain Kate also had time to share his own culture by singing a traditional Filipino serenade.
With the kundiman, or the traditional Filipino serenade, I wanted people to understand the rich Filipino culture. As an army built on teamwork, as an army built on esprit de corps, we have to see who we are together so we can make a stronger group.
Sergeant First Class Ben Navratil, Camp Carroll, Korea.
U.S. Army Garrison Daegu tries to harmonize and embrace the diversity through the annual Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage event. Nearly every country has its own unique cuisine. A former resident of Los Angeles blends cultures in his Korean kitchen. Army Sergeant Stephen Dornbos has the story.
So it's fish, shrimp, or octopus.
Many restaurants in Seoul can tantalize your taste buds with a variety of food. Just outside of Yongsan is one man who brought the wave of California to the land of the morning calm.
You know, my concept here is Baja-style fish tacos. I don't really consider myself a Mexican restaurant. You know, it's strictly a fish taco place, which is something very common in Southern California. The biggest thing for me with cooking is, for one, the satisfaction of knowing that I nailed it. It tastes good to me. The other thing is watching other people enjoy it. And it feels good when you see people enjoying what you created, you know? I like to cook things the way they were supposed to be. You know, I'll tweak the recipe, you know, to my palate, but I won't switch things around. I'm not too into the whole fusion thing. What I would really like to do is bring some authenticity to Korea.
Brian's father fought in the Vietnam War as a Republic of Korea Marine. After the war, he joined the U.S. Army and retired as a Sergeant First Class. Naturally, Brian respects the service and dedication of our troops.
I take great pride in having grown up as a military brat. My younger brother, he's actually a captain in the Marines right now. He did 2 tours in Afghanistan. He's stationed out in Virginia Beach. I'd like to say that, you know, I definitely appreciate all the troops for what they do.
Army Sergeant Stephen Dornbos, Yongsan, Korea.
Brian Kim returned to Korea to open his new restaurant here in Seoul. Need a break from life in the city? Army Sergeant Ryan Sharp takes us to a place of eye-popping wonder and soothing aromas.
The Garden of Morning Calm, located in Gyeonggi-do, is the oldest private botanical garden in Korea that attracts nearly 1 million visitors annually. Open year-round, the garden is a great spot for families, couples, and photographers alike.
When you visit, you'll see the gardens aren't entirely full of flowers and seem slightly empty. This mixture of flowers and blank space shows the tranquility and beauty of Korean culture. I think this is where we can find Korean traditional beauty and composure together.
In addition to the beautiful foliage, the garden offers peaceful resting areas or places to just sit and create your own decorations. One of the hands-on things that you can do here at the Garden of Morning Calm is make an algae vase shaped into animals, such as this turtle. After 15 minutes of fumbling and bumbling, I finally finished my turtle. All right. That's nice. The one thing that I can't show you is the many aromas given off by the thousands of flowers that you can experience here at the Garden of Morning Calm. The garden may be most beautiful during springtime, but it is also a stunning sight year-round. Army Sergeant Ryan Sharp, Gyeonggi-do, Korea.
The Garden of the Morning Calm is also home to a 1,000-year-old juniper tree, which is the center of attention. That was your Around the Peninsula for Thursday, May 21st. From all of us here at AFN, enjoy your evening.
Each year in May, we highlight the Asian American Pacific Islanders that have fought at our side for numerous years. The United States military has become a diverse group of individuals with many different cultural backgrounds. Take time to appreciate the customs and cultures that define these military members. Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month Many cultures, one voice.